Kit Malthouse was on Politics Live today, and he dropped a real pearl of wisdom. I cracked that oyster and I found the pearl. We can listen to it here, actually.
Yeah, let's.
On the EU, are you pleased? Are you welcoming Keir Starmer going to Brussels, first meeting of a British Prime Minister there since we left the EU, to get that closer relationship, that reset?
Well, first of all, on your first question, can I just say, I don't think the people who we talk to and why we talk to them should be dictated by the Americans. Right? I think if this is the school playground where, sorry, you can't be my best friend because you're talking to him over there, then we're into a kind of adolescent world of geopolitics, which is going to be a disaster for everybody, right? So should we be talking to the Europeans about trade? Absolutely we should, right? We buy a lot of their stuff, they buy a lot of our stuff, so we should make that as easy as possible.
So should there be an alliance, a really close alliance with the EU, because it might be our only protection against an unreliable and unpredictable US president?
Well, there already is a military alliance.
Yeah.
We already have a trade and cooperation agreement, which is meant to be a trade alliance. Obviously, those things are closely linked, the two of them. So, yeah, I mean, if we can sell them more stuff and they can sell us more stuff cheaply and easily and freely without us being part of some massive political organisation, then great, let's do it.
Right. So, should we...
So there he says we should talk to our closest trading partner. It makes sense that if we live near people, we should be able to trade freely with them. This guy, you know the pulse, I can't even touch the pulse because Kit Malthouse's massive finger is covering it. He also references later in the programme the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the CPTPP, which you'll know is, well, the Brexit light. It's one of the big bastions of Brexit success. It's going to potentially bring in a 2 billion boost to growth every single year to the United Kingdom. Now, just to put that growth into perspective, Brexit has wiped out £101.4 billion of our GDP every single year.
So that means, hang on, we just need like 50 of those Trans-Pacific partnerships.
Yeah.
And everyone's queuing up.
Yeah.
To join forces with us in the global economy.
You just got to charge inheritance tax on like 5 farmers and then we're there.
I wonder if this is what it means to be sort of tuned into British politics now. It's just sort of 15 years on a cycle of we need to leave the EU, we need to leave the EU, we need to leave the EU, we need to leave the EU. I think we should rejoin the EU. I think we should rejoin the EU. I think we should rejoin the EU. I think we should, and it just repeats and repeats ad nauseum until we all die.
Tony Blair, a couple of years ago, said something on the lines of, I don't want to misquote Tony Blair, but he said something on the lines of, sometimes you need to tell the people, you need to just give the people what they need rather than listen to the people. And he was talking about that in terms of Brexit. The argument is so strong of why we should be in a customs arrangement with Europe. I was asked over the weekend, I was doing I think Radio 5 quite late night on a Saturday, and I was asked, is it a Brexit betrayal if we seek a close trading link with the EU? And it's like, well, yeah, it probably is, but I'd rather not be poor. And I think you need to tell people, actually, I don't really care what you think about sovereignty. I actually think that you need to put food on the table, and this is the best way to go about it.
I was listening to Tim Shipman's book about the decline of the Tories. I was doing it while I was ran the farthest I've ever run, to brag about that. Thank you, audience. And they described Brexit as the second secular religion in this country, the NHS being the first, and just the idea of Brexit becoming so sacrosanct, and any sort of violation of that is met with such vitriol. Like people, the discussion around it is still so tense that no one is willing to have a good faith conversation about it, and everyone still, or even 9 years later, is still fingers in their ears, going la 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 la.
So I guess within the context of the two things that you've both just said, do we not think that that's a sort of a fairly held belief? Because for all of Brexit's flaws or merits, the country did vote to do it. And the people that voted for it spent years having to actively say, no, we voted for this thing, and now you, the establishment, the elite, are trying to undermine and stop it, right? Whether it's the second referendum campaign, whether it's the mayhem in Parliament that forced Johnson into proroguing it. And as Ava just said, sort of probably since Thatcher, the most sort of totemic political figure in British politics, just saying sometimes actually you need to give them their vegetables. You need to give the British people their medicine. You know, they don't know what's best for them. Mm-hmm. Silly little person. I, Tony Blair, do, and I'm going to tell you what's best for you, and we're going to do it. If you voted for a thing, who the fuck are you, Tony Blair? I don't care. I don't care if it knocks 4% off our GDP. I don't care. I voted for this thing. You're going to do it, and I think that is where the fever and the emotion comes from, right? It's like the condescension, the idea that once in a blue moon, you our dear rulers, give us the opportunity to have our say, and we had our say, and you didn't like it, and you spent the last 10 years trying to stop it from happening. Like, I think you can understand why it animates people. You want to do some tariff chat?
Tariffs?
Time for tariff chat?
Well, if we're going to do that, we've got to play another absolute blinder by Kit Malthouse on Politics Live today. The man did a politics and economics degree at Newcastle University. He was a minister for years, right? But today was a big learning day for him. He was learning, he was discovering today. Just roll the clip.
Can we avoid US tariffs?
Well, Donald Trump is a businessman, right? And he's incredibly transactional. So maybe the first call to Starmer was because he thinks he's going to be a pushover. The idea that they're going to leave us free of tariffs in exchange for nothing is ridiculous. He obviously thinks there's some kind of deal to be done there. And I think to an extent with Canada and Mexico, that's what he's trying to promote as well. But he seems to be operating under the misapprehension that it's exporters who pay tariffs and not importers. So it'll be American companies who are importing all these goods from around the world who will be paying the tariffs, not us.
So that's Kit Malthouse there. And, explaining that Trump might have actually got it wrong with this tariff stuff. Because if he puts a tariff on Britain or the EU, it's not us that pays the tariff. Oh, no. It's Americans that pay the tariff. Now, for anyone who did economics A-level or politics A-level, you might deduce, well, yeah, we do that because that means it disincentivizes them from buying British or EU products, thereby, squeezing those countries and making them panic a little bit, but not Kit Malthouse. Oh, no. Trump's just simply got it wrong. He's got it the wrong way round. If he wants to punish the EU, he should put the tariff on American goods.
What?
That's what I'm saying. It's so stupid. It doesn't make sense. Obviously, Kit. Obviously, the tariff goes on EU goods.
What dreadful advert for Newcastle University, I must say.
Fucking hell.
I'm just saying, it was really funny that you specified where he got his degree. Obviously, like his ministerial experience is probably a lot more relevant than his undergraduate degree.
Yeah, I think he was Secretary to the Treasury when they were in government, I think. Yeah. It's funny.
Housing, oh boy. And crime and policing.
He was the crime minister for a period of time, wasn't he?
Prime minister. Well, you know what's a crime? You know what is a crime?
What? Ava?
Not knowing how import tariffs work.
I think I actually respect it from him because...
Malthouse or Trump?
Malthouse.
Right.
I kind of respect the Trump thing as well, to be fair. But specifically with Malthouse, where most of the Brexiteers wanted to leave the EU because they viewed it as excessively protectionist, right? That you create this free trading bloc within the borders of the EU, but then you impose punitive tariffs on anyone who wants to sell, for example, wheat into the European Union in order to support your own farmers. And there are plenty of people who supported Brexit who are now cheerleading for Trump imposing his tariffs in this fashion. And I find it quite telling, perhaps, that their love or their hatred of tariffs depends quite clearly on the politics of the people that are enacting them. That's my sort of point for one. And then the second is whether or not it changes or how we believe it sort of impacts the UK's position outside of the European Union in this context. Because Trump yesterday, I mean, it's hard to understand what he's saying, full stop. But he kind of said the UK, we do have some issues with the UK, but I think we'll sort them out. Yeah, the UK's out of line, but I think we'll sort it out it's not as bad as with the EU.
He thinks it can be worked out. Starmer and I are getting on very well.
Yeah.
He's a really great guy.
Yeah.
The UK's out of line because we don't want their unvaccinated meat.
Well, we don't want their meat and we don't want their cars. But, I mean, why would somewhere like, I don't know, Germany, for example, you know, the home of, like, Mercedes and BMW, why do they not want a Chrysler car? How many children could you take out with one of their Escalades or whatever they're called?
We are actually, you know, we're one of the only countries that doesn't have a significant tariffs regime for Chinese electric vehicles.
We're one of the only ones who don't.
Yeah, the EU has pretty strong ones. The America obviously now has even stronger ones with that flat 10% on all Chinese goods. We're one of the only places where the Chinese EV manufacturers can sell to unhindered.
Unhindered.
Yeah.
Coming through the free
Uninhibited.
ports, are they? Well, also, they would actually be able to... Some of the manufacturers will be able to say that parts and products are British made because they just bring things in through the free port, create it here and then export it again. Free, by the way. No tax.